As a sequel, I think that The Incredibles 2 succeeds in craftsmanship, characterization, and continuity, but stumbles in ambition and world building and fumbles a little bit on delivery. And I don't know whether or not the film's strengths are ultimately undermined by its structural conservatism and oddly timed release. When does playing it safe stop being a soft victory and begrudgingly become a quiet failure? Well, that's the question I intend to meditate upon through this essay. So, without further ado, let's get into what works, what doesn't, and how all of that ultimately affects the quality of the overall experience, for good and for ill. First, let's discuss what I genuinely believe the movie got right, starting with its biggest win. It didn't pander to kids. Right from the first scene, I found myself rather impressed by how faithful it was being to the previously established world, feeling like this was a logical place to pick up from where we last left off with these characters. Then, when the billionaire talks about how his parents were murdered, I knew this was gonna be good.
You had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
From there, with a few minor exceptions, I felt the movie maintained a dark and serious atmosphere while still finding time to throw in moments of levity when it was appropriate. It was surprisingly adult in its approach, never feeling the need to handhold the audience through the story, even if it did telegraph the villain from 1,000 miles away. As I sort of touched on prior, I found the characters to be very much in line with who they were established to be in the first movie. Now, some might protest and argue that they are too in line, and then go on to complain that certain character arcs have been retconned solely because their entire being and relationship with the rest of the family is not completely changed from the ground up. That simply betrays in them a lack of true understanding of how real relationships actually work, and I think what is actually shown is indeed a very adult understanding of true character change, and also just far more appropriate. It's not so much that the characters didn't learn their lessons as it is that those events from the first film have only just happened to them within the last few weeks and are likely still being properly integrated as fresh experiences, which, as I said before, is a much more honest and nuanced and ultimately realistic depiction of healthy growth and change. Take, for instance, my favorite scene in the whole movie. Bob and Helen are discussing what she should do with her offer. He stumbles through telling her she should go and do it. Context being, he was really excited about the idea of getting to be Mr. Incredible again. He had his hopes set really high, and then dash. So now, to get what he wants, he must squash his feelings of justified disappointment, but also his guilty feelings of jealousy to support his wife because it's the right thing to do. Yet, even though his words are good, he still really is only just thinking about himself, and she makes fun of him for that. But not in the men are big dumb animals way, just the men and women handle things differently way. He means well, he's just not meant for a normal life, and she understands that. She mentions the kids, and he goes, "You go, I've got the kids, it'll be easy." She goes, "Easy? You're adorable." Again, making fun of his innocence. He means well enough, he simply doesn't understand what it is exactly that he's volunteering for. And if that double gold star of a scene wasn't already good enough, it ended on self-awareness. Bob says, "Go on, go do this thing, so I can do it better." And instead of an argument ensuing or her preaching about gender politics, she just playfully hits him with a pillow. Fucking chef's kiss. 3 for 3. Hat trick. Masterfully executed, good sir. I tip my fedora to you. The movie shows self-awareness again later when she calls herself out for doing the exact thing that she spent the first half of this movie and the entire previous movie telling the rest of her family not to do.
Oh, I'm such a hypocrite.
Now, one last minor thing while we're on the topics of characters and change. I found that the updated animation style was nice. It maintained the look that we've come to expect from this world while simultaneously updating it enough for it to feel fresh, as well as allow for a richer and deeper experience and greater range of expression on the part of the animators, which you don't even really need to pay attention to appreciate. Just the scene of Bob's breakdown alone shows just how much fun they were actually having with this one. I never found myself dropping into the uncanny valley at all. Now, I told myself to be impartial, view this movie honestly. It's a movie, and I'm a professional couch potato. You're goddamn right, I've got some complaints about The Incredibles 2. For what it's worth, I will say this. My complaints are mostly nitpicks. I only watched the movie once, and I don't think they affected my viewing experience too much, and yet, I still have to talk about it. First, I'll say the thing that everyone else has already said. What the fuck took so long? The Incredibles came out in 2004, and I don't think I'm entirely alone when I say most people kind of expected an immediate sequel. That's sort of just what they did back then. Sort of kind of what they do now, I guess. Point is this. Had they made this movie exactly as it is, just back in 2006 or 2007, I honestly don't think anybody would have noticed the other issues I'm about to address. But before I move on to that, the fact that this movie came out following the hype of Marvel's Infinity Saga, at a time when Disney was using all of its cinematic necromancy to defile and molest almost every one of our once cherished and beloved franchises, them claiming that this was solely a passion project for a story that just had to be told seems dubious to me. I'm sorry, but even if the movie didn't violate me while I was watching it, the movie still looked like a shameless cash grab when it was announced. That's all I'm saying. Something else that makes the theory of cash grab seem even more self-evident was in the way that the movie never really took any chances. If you bother to compare, it is basically a beat-for-beat rehashing of everything that worked from the first movie. Heroes are illegal. One of them is approached by a billionaire to do secret hero work. They decide to do said hero work. The other one stays home and does the boring, not-so-boring family stuff. Tease the villain, reveal the villain, beat the villain. Movie ends. Status quo remains unchanged, just like a good episode of The Simpsons. Hell, they even dedicated significantly more screen time to Edna Mode and Baby Jack Jack, even giving them a cute little scene together. Totally not as a form of obvious fan service or to sell boatloads of merchandise or anything. Now, to their credit, it's not really all that noticeable when you're all wrapped up in it, as the small amount of world building we do actually get happens mostly in the background of action scenes, like dangling keys in a toddler's face every 5 minutes. Bam! Another action scene. Just wipes your fucking hard drive. So it's only really in retrospect, when you think back on what you just watched, that you realize anything was even wrong. Now, finally, to my only real complaint that I feel goes beyond just a nitpick, the villain. Yeah, I know, everyone else has probably already beaten this topic to death, but the build-up and the reveal could have been more subtle, because as it stands, it just kind of makes Helen look like a bit of a dumbass. Also, I just found the villain's motivation to be a little lackluster, which is kind of shitty because it's honestly stronger emotionally than Syndrome's. I don't know. To me, it seems like it was the first good idea that they had that worked, and then they said to themselves internally, great placeholder, we'll think of something better later. And then they just never came up with that something better later. So, do I think that the film's strengths are ultimately undermined by its failings? No, I genuinely believe that The Incredibles 2 is actually a good sequel, as far as sequels go. It does a lot of things right, including have fun and be self-aware at times. I think it does everything it set out to do, including making money, well enough without violating any sacred part of my childhood, unlike so many other resurrections have want to do in recent times, which is why the things that it gets wrong stand out so much to me. Had this movie come out before 2010, nobody, including me, would really care about any of the bad, because it's honestly a minor flaw on an otherwise great sequel. It hits all of the beats, doesn't really preach, doesn't stay too long, and that's good enough for me to watch it again someday. Oh, and one more thing. Dash asking, is she having adolescence? Was a brilliant period joke. Bravo.